Joe Biden is apologizing following the kerfuffle in regard to his boastful comments about working with segregationists decades ago. Now, that didn't fare so well for him in the polls, especially after the Democratic debate where Kamala Harris confronted him about it. And so during a campaign event, he said this.
Now, was I wrong a few weeks ago to somehow give the impression to people that I was praising those men who I successfully opposed time and again? Well, yes. I was. I regret it. And I'm sorry for any of the pain or misconception they may have caused anybody. But should that misstep define 50 years of my record for fighting for civil rights, racial justice in this country? I hope not. I don't think so. That just isn't an honest assessment of my record. And I'm going to let my record and my character stand for itself and not be distorted or smeared.
Now remember, Biden worked with segregationists not toward progressive policy or even liberal policy. He worked with them to help push back against busing to integrate schools and communities. So that is something to keep in mind. And so now he's apologizing, I would argue, because it's really hurting his numbers.
Of course, yeah. Of course. Look, it's one thing if you apologize before you get caught. It's another thing if after you get caught. And this one is after I got caught, and then I got busted in a debate, and then it hurt my poll numbers, and then I apologized, and then I called it smears. Okay, so look, I'm not one to dwell on was the apology good enough. I think that's laborious and kind of a mundane thing. And look, people apologize, they apologize, great. But man, that turn was quick, where he's like, I apologize for all the people who got offended, and then let me tell you about how they smeared me. It's a little tough to do both.
So let's hear what Kamala Harris's response was.
He is right to recognize the impact of his words, and I applaud him for doing that and having the courage to do it. There is still plenty of disagreement between he and I. I'm going to take him at his word, but again, that doesn't address the issue of busing in America, and the fact that he still, we cannot rewrite history.
No, we can't rewrite history, and I agree with Kamala Harris on this. But one thing that I want to bring up really quick, Cenk, is what does Biden bring to the table? I mean, the only thing that we keep getting from the Biden supporters, both on the left and the right, is that he's the most electable of the bunch. But is he really the most electable when he makes these types of missteps over and over again, remains defiant, and then changes course once he notices that it's not so helpful for his poll numbers? I mean, is that really what's electable? What is he bringing to the table when it comes to policy? Is there anything, different about him? Is there anything that stands out about him? Is there anything creative about his policy proposals? What are his policy proposals? Do we know? Do we know? What does he bring to the table? Nothing. So far, nothing.
So I'm going to get into details a little bit right there because he says he just unveiled one of his first proposals ever. And it was a really bold one on the healthcare, a public option.
Wow.
Okay, first of all, that's been proposed by almost every candidate running for office, except now, obviously, a lot go way further than that, including all the way up to single payer Medicare for all. Second of all, that was proposed during the time that Obama and Biden were in charge. And we accurately predicted that Obama and Biden didn't care about it and we're gonna throw it under a bus. We were right. The defenders of Obama and Biden were wrong. They immediately jettisoned it at the first possible chance to appease Republicans. But by the way, it wasn't really to appease Republicans as much as it was to appease corporate Democrats. Guys like Joe Lieberman, who said, no, I also work for the drug companies and the health insurance companies, and under no circumstances will I allow a public option to compete with them. I wanted to maintain their oligopoly. And so Obama and Biden said, yes, sir, of course, sir, and immediately threw out the public option. So why is the guy who couldn't get the public option done last time with a super majority, the guy we would want to get the public option now, let alone the fact that that is way too little and definitely way too late. So my point being here is, like Nancy Pelosi, he says, well, you should forgive all of the terrible things that I do and the mistakes that I do and the fact that I never fight Republicans because of what I am working on. So then we naturally ask, what are you working on? And the answer with Biden is almost always nothing.
Ryan Grimm wrote a fantastic op-ed in the Washington Post that I highly recommend everybody take a look at, because he outlines why there's this giant disconnect or divide among freshman Democrats and people like Nancy Pelosi and Biden. You know, they went through a beating in the Reagan era, and I get that. But they were essentially beaten to submission, and now they just cave when it comes to any and all progressive principles. They do not fight because they are convinced that the America that we live in today is the exact same America that we were living in under the Reagan administration, and that is simply not the case. And so I'm not interested in having a debate or a conversation with defeatists from that era who have learned one lesson and one lesson only and refuse to see how the country has progressed and changed since then. So Biden is not a fighter because he's been conditioned to not be a fighter.
Which brings us back around to the original segregationist story. So did Joe Biden work with segregationists to get concessions out of them and say, God, this is uncomfortable working with people who can't stand black people and think that they are inferior to white people, that they are a different species of human beings? I mean, that is just atrocious. But I had to hold my nose, but look at what I got out of them. No, he went towards them and said, oh, you guys are right, man, we shouldn't do busing. Now, you could have a variety of opinions on busing back then or today, but to brag that you went towards the segregationists and helped them pass anti-busing legislation at the federal level. And on one of the bills, you know who was his co-sponsor? Strom Thurmond, who ran. Now, he didn't get mentioned because he wasn't in that original quote from Biden, but Biden on many occasions in other quotes while running has bragged about working with Strom Thurmond. He was a Republican who ran, but before that, he ran on a separate third-party ticket for president as a segregationist. That was a segregationist ticket. So that's his main claim to fame, Strom Thurmond. And Biden's like, I co-sponsored it with Strom Thurmond.
Civility.
Civility when you are going towards racists rather than fighting them is not at all what we need in today's America, not remotely. So if you want, cowed leaders who bow down to people like Donald Trump, we already got that in spades. I mean, just walk over to any leadership position in the House or the Senate, and you'll find it, right? And Anna's absolutely right. Ryan's book, We've Got People, is an excellent description. The Washington Post article is a fantastic excerpt from it, but you should read the whole book. ShopTYT.com. We've got it over there. It's all the way back into the 1980s and how they were beaten into submission, all the way to today. And of course, there's another factor, which is that they all work for the same people. So Biden has literally said, if you give me $250,000, I will make sure that I listen to you after I win. I mean, bless his heart for being honest about that, but he's basically saying, you give me money, I work for you. I work for you. I don't work for the voters. Nancy Pelosi brags about raising $500 million from those giant donors. These guys, these Democrats, celebrate their incompetence and their
weakness.
And if you think that's electable, not only are you wrong on the policy, because we'll get nothing done for 4 years, but you're also wrong on the politics. Hillary Clinton already ran a campaign saying, I will work with Republicans, I will fight for the status quo, and I'm not gonna change much. Biden is more conservative than Hillary Clinton. Terrible idea to run him. He's the least electable, not the most electable. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.